There are wins, and then there are statements. Charlie Woods didn't just notch a victory at the AJGA TaylorMade Invitational, he seized the spotlight and made sure the golf world couldn't ignore him any longer. He closed the event well under par, carving up the field with confidence that felt more seasoned than teenage. In one weekend, the storyline flipped from speculation to certainty. When a Woods wins, the whispers turn to roars. What set this apart wasn't just the number on the scorecard, it was the authority with which he played. Round after round, Charlie looked comfortable in contention, his swing smooth, his putting crisp, his composure intact. Spectators expecting the jitters of youth saw instead a competitor who belonged. This wasn't about Tiger's shadow, it was about Charlie stepping into his own. Not just Tiger's son, a contender in his own right. Birdie after birdie stacked onto his card, erasing doubt with every putt that dropped. The final round was a showcase. 8 birdies that turned what could have been a grind into a victory lap. Fans who once whispered about pressure were left counting shots under par. Birdies piled higher than doubts. And here's the truth, this kind of performance doesn't just happen because of genetics. Yes, the last name matters. But dominance like this comes from hours of grind, resilience, and hunger. Charlie earned every stroke. Dominance isn't inherited, it's earned. Those watching from the ropes weren't just seeing a famous surname on a tee sheet, they were witnessing a competitor rising. The murmurs about nepotism or legacy faded as Charlie turned each fairway into a statement. The gallery saw more than a surname. Even critics, quick to draw comparisons to Tiger, had to pause. This win wasn't a shadow play, it was Charlie forcing the conversation onto himself, a win that silences comparisons. For a moment, the sport glimpsed the possibility of another Woods era not as a copy, but as a continuation with its own style and flair. Greatness glimpsed, not borrowed. For every moment of brilliance, golf has a way of reminding players how fragile success can be. Charlie Woods discovered that truth in brutal fashion at the U.S. Junior Amateur, where the cheers of his breakthrough win gave way to the sting of missing the cut. A tournament meant to confirm momentum, instead exposed the volatility of growth. When the cut cuts deeper than expected, it wasn't just the scorecard that told the story, it was the gap between expectation and execution. After dominating one event, the bar was suddenly higher, and every bogey felt magnified. Charlie flashed promise in the second round with a stronger 74, but it wasn't enough to erase the damage. Golf doesn't hand out passes for potential. Talent collides with reality. What hurt most wasn't the number itself, it was the silence that followed. Headlines weren't about birdies anymore, but about a teenager still searching for consistency. For someone carrying a last name that demands perfection, the absence of progress became louder than any cheer, a stumble that speaks louder than silence. And yet, buried inside the disappointment is the kind of lesson that can't be bought or inherited. Missing the cut isn't the end, it's the start of understanding what separates flashes of brilliance from sustainable greatness. Failure framed as foundation. Too often, the public measures young athletes by podiums and trophies, forgetting that growth is jagged, not linear. For Charlie, this was another chapter, not the whole book. And in this story, a setback matters as much as a victory. Not every chapter is a trophy. Golf, more than any sport, teaches humility. Just when you think you've solved it, the game shifts, punishes, and humbles. Charlie joined a long list of players who learned that lesson early. Golf humbles faster than it praises. Still, a missed cut is not the same as a missed opportunity. Each failure sharpens the blade, carving out resilience where talent alone isn't enough. Missed cuts, not missed chances. Because in the end, the number that will define Charlie isn't his score, it's his ability to rise again and again when the world is watching. Resilience is the only score that counts. Just as momentum seemed to build, golf delivered a sharp reminder of how unforgiving it can be. At the U.S., Junior Amateur, Charlie Woods faced a reality check that no last name can protect you from. He missed the cut. One week, he was the face of promise. The next, he was standing outside the ropes, learning a painful truth about the game. When the cut cuts deeper than expected, it's one thing to feel pressure, but another to fall short under it. After a shaky opening round, Charlie fought hard to recover, even piecing together an improved 74. But in golf, improvement doesn't always equal survival. The damage was done early, and his climb fell short. Promise may earn applause, but it doesn't erase numbers on a scorecard. Talent collides with reality. The frustration wasn't just his, it was shared by fans, analysts, and media eager to witness another surge. Instead, silence filled the space where cheers once roared. For Tiger's son, the silence can feel louder than the noise. And this time, the storyline wasn't about triumph, it was about inconsistency, a stumble that speaks louder than silence. Still, hidden in every stumble lies the groundwork for growth. For Charlie, this wasn't the end of a journey, but a lesson carved into the fabric of his career. A missed cut becomes a teacher more honest than any victory speech. Failure framed as foundation. The narrative of greatness is rarely straight. Every young golfer's story includes valleys, and this one was steep. But those valleys serve a purpose. They prepare players for peaks yet to come. Not every chapter is a trophy. Golf humbles all who try to master it. Even the greatest champions have walked off courses questioning their talent. Charlie joined that lineage, reminded that brilliance one week can vanish the next. Golf humbles faster than it praises. But here's the hidden truth. Missed cuts aren't wasted cuts. Each failure builds the endurance needed to outlast the storm of expectation. Missed cuts, not missed chances. And when the dust settles, only one measure really matters, not the round, not the cut, but the resilience to stand up again. Resilience is the only score that counts. Every setback creates a crossroads. For Charlie Woods, missing the cut could have become an anchor, but instead, it turned into fuel. Away from the spotlight, he made changes, physical, mental, and emotional, that reshaped not just his swing, but his entire presence. The boy who once looked overwhelmed now began to look ready. A lighter frame, a heavier game. Observers noticed it first in practice rounds. His body looked leaner, his stride sharper, his shoulders squared with intent. Shedding weight wasn't about appearance, it was about performance. Charlie carried himself like an athlete, determined to compete, not just participate, discipline disguised as destiny. Even his reflection told a different story. The teenager who once seemed fragile under pressure now showed signs of resilience etched into his posture. You could see it in the way he gripped the club, the calmness before his backswing, the intensity in his focus. The mirror shows a different golfer. The physical shift fed directly into his game. With a stronger core and better stamina, his drives gained distance, his approach shots carried precision, and his endurance across 18 holes no longer wavered. It wasn't just about trimming weight, it was about igniting fire. Less weight, more fire. This wasn't the transformation of a kid trying to impress, it was the progression of a competitor. Charlie moved from flashes of brilliance to sustained stretches of focus, from raw promise to sharpened edge, from boyish promise to sharpened edge. And the biggest difference? Mental toughness. Instead of letting nerves dictate his swing, he leaned into them, channeling pressure into execution. The anxious teen had been replaced by a player learning to thrive under scrutiny. Focus replaces flashes. Because true transformation isn't about mechanics, it's about mindset. Charlie didn't just change his swing, he changed his approach to the game, committing fully to the grind that golf demands. Commitment is the real swing change. The result was clear. He no longer looked like Tiger's son trying to keep up. He looked like Charlie Woods, a golfer building his own path. Transformation is louder than talent. For Charlie Woods, the conversation isn't just about golf, it's about inheritance. Not only the swing lessons from his father, but the wealth, the fame, the expectations that come tethered to one of the most iconic names in sport. A trust fund worth millions has already been secured, but financial comfort does nothing to lighten the weight of competition. A fortune waiting, but pressure can't be banked. Because the truth is, privilege cuts both ways. Yes, Charlie has access to resources most juniors can only dream of: elite coaching, world-class facilities, and the wisdom of Tiger himself. But every advantage is met with double the scrutiny. To many, his last name isn't just a door opener, it's a cage. Privilege and prison in the same last name. Money can ensure stability, but it cannot craft a champion. The game still demands early mornings, relentless practice, and mental grit that no inheritance can buy.